Nurse Linda barely glanced at the black woman in labor as she clutched her stomach in pain, begging for help. "Your kind usually toughs it out," she scoffed, turning her back. But when a tall man in an Armani suit stormed into the ER an hour later, his brass health department badge glinting under the fluorescent lights, Linda's face went sheet white. Like she'd seen a ghost. What happened next sent shockwaves through the entire hospital. But let's start from the beginning. 2:47 a.m. The automatic doors of Springfield County Hospital's maternity ward hissed open, yielding to Shanice Williams, a black woman barely able to walk through her contractions. Her long dreads, usually neatly tied back, now clung sweat-soaked to her neck. Her hands gripped the swell of her belly where little Jaden was making his imminent arrival known. The fluorescent lights cast a sickly pallor over her dark skin, bleaching it to ashen gray. Every step to the front desk took superhuman effort. Another contraction seized her, twisting her body into a knot as her knuckles whitened on the railing. Behind the registration desk, lit by a flickering monitor, sat Linda Graves, a white woman in her 50s with a stiff conservative updo and faded eyebrows. Her chipped peach nail polish tapped the keyboard before her gaze, cold, appraising, finally lifted to Shanice. It crawled over her worn jacket and snagged on her dreads. "Form 34B, Linda snapped, sliding a clipboard across the counter. Her tone suggested she was addressing a delinquent student, not a woman minutes from crowning. Shanice forced a smile as another contraction crested. My water broke in the cab." "Contractions every 3 minutes, Linda sighed theatrically, eyeing her scuffed wristwatch. "Everyone has babies, sweetheart." Her lips twisted into a smile that never touched her eyes. "And take those," she twirled a finger near her temple, "things down. Sanitation rules." Just then, the doors opened again, a white couple entered, the man in a designer leather jacket supporting a redhead groaning through contractions. "We have an emergency," he barked. Linda transformed. Her spine straightened, her voice dripped syrup sweet. "Oh, you poor dears. Room 304 is ready. Jake will take you right up." Shani slumped against the wall, warmth trickling down her thighs. "Not amniotic fluid. Blood. I really need help," her voice frayed to a whisper. Linda was already dialing, her back turned. "Your kind usually toughs it out. Fill out the forms." Footsteps faded down the hall, the white couple vanished behind labor and delivery doors. Shani stood alone, clutching blood-smeared paperwork, realizing her child might die simply because her skin was shades darker than the redheads. A distant ambulance siren wailed, merging with the wind outside. The hospital clock read 2:53 a.m. 6 minutes of hell. 6 minutes of humiliation. Not one glance of compassion. Shanice shut her eyes, clinging to the image of her husband, Michael, racing toward her, oblivious to her torment. Her trembling fingers found her phone. "Mike." Her voice cracked. "They won't help me." "And Linda Graves?" She sipped coffee from a Nurse of the Year 2022 mug, flicking Shanice one last indifferent stare, a look steeped in generations of systemic contempt. Shanice Williams lay on the cold metal table, her dark skin stark against the sterile white sheet she gripped with such force that the tendons in her arms stood out like coiled ropes. Each contraction now came in 90-second waves, just long enough to make a person beg for death. "Where's the anesthesiologist?" Shanice ground out through clenched teeth. Her voice was raw. 2 hours of screaming into an empty hallway had scorched her throat. Linda Graves, her white coat immaculate, adjusted the four with detached calm. The needle in Shanice's vein had long ceased to be sterile, a purple bruise spiderwebbed around the puncture site. "Be patient," Linda muttered, still not looking at her. "We've paged the doctor." A pause. Her lips twisted into something between a smile and a sneer. "This is free for you, right?" Next door, a joyful cry rang out. The white woman from reception was already cradling her newborn. Shanice fumbled for her phone. Her fingers slipped on the blood and sweat-smeared screen. "Mike." Her voice shattered into syllables. "They're not helping." On the other end of the line, in a black limo tearing down the highway at 120 miles per hour, a tall black man in a perfectly tailored Tom Ford suit crushed his phone until the screen cracked. "I'm coming," said Michael Williams, his usually velvet baritone now a death-rattle growl. The doctor finally entered, a young white man with exhausted eyes. "Where's her epidural?" he asked Linda. She shrugged. "She's black. Said she's used to pain." Shanice shut her eyes. A memory surfaced, her first lecture at Harvard Med. Standing at the podium, the only black woman in her class, proving pain thresholds aren't racial. Another contraction folded her body in half. Then, footsteps in the hall. Fast. Hard. Unstoppable. "Where's the chief of medicine?" Michael Williams' voice ripped through the sterile halls like a shockwave. Every head snapped toward the source, a tall black man in a flawless midnight blue suit, his broad shoulders seeming even more massive under the weight of his fury. On his lapel, a gold badge blazed, Michael Williams, Director, State Health Department. Linda Graves, who'd just been adjusting an 4 in room 304, whirled so fast the syringe slipped from her hand. Her normally pale face drained of all color. "Mr. Williams?" Her voice, usually so assured, squeaked like a broken piano wire. Michael advanced. Each step echoed on the linoleum. His dark eyes, usually so composed at press conferences, burned with black fire. "My wife," he slowly raised a hand toward the delivery room door, where Shanice's moan spilled out, "has been in labor here for 4 hours. No epidural. No attending physician." A pause. The air thickened with the weight of his authority. "If anything happens to her or my son," he didn't finish. He didn't need to. Then, a newborn's cry. Little Jaden Williams' first protest against the world. Linda gripped the wall, her legs buckling. Her reflection in the glass door showed her the truth, not the veteran nurse of 30 years, but just another old white woman whose reign had ended in a single moment. Somewhere deep in the hospital, a phone rang. Someone had already called the chief. Linda Graves stood at the discharge desk, her once confident hands now trembling like a novice nurse's. Pale fingers with peachy, peeling varnish filled out the paperwork slowly, as if each word was an incredible effort. On the wall directly above her head hung a glossy new poster with the state emblem, Order #47-09, No Racial Discrimination in Healthcare Facilities. When the door opened, Linda flinched. Shanice Williams entered, holding baby Jaden wrapped in a blue blanket. Her dreadlocks were neatly tucked into an elegant bundle, and instead of a shabby jacket, she wore a white lab coat with Dr. Williams embroidered on it. "Your papers." Linda held out the papers, eyes downcast. The voice, which had sounded condescending 48 hours ago, now resembled the creaking of old hospital doors. "Good day, Mrs. Williams." Shanice smiled slowly. Not gloating. Not retaliating. Just calmly, like a professor correcting a student, Dr. Williams. She gently adjusted her glasses. "I'm a professor of neurology at Harvard Medical School." Michael appeared behind her back, no longer just an angry husband, but an official in an impeccable suit, carrying a folder of documents about an unscheduled inspection of the hospital. As they stepped out into the dazzling morning, Michael hugged his wife and son. The sunlight played on the baby's dark skin. "Our little revolutionary," Michael whispered as he kissed his son's velvety head. Shanice looked at the hospital building, where the rules of the game were now forever changed, and added quietly, "He has already changed the world."